Yep, you read that title right. The Man of Steel versus the KKK. This is an official book, by the way. It's such a great read though. It's written and drawn in the style of the Golden Age comics, and I love it so much. It takes place just as Superman is starting to come into his own and get a feel for his new powers. So enough of the chit chat, let's start this cracker of a book. The year is 1946 and the Metropolis Dam is in trouble. The Atom Man, aka the Avenger of the Master Race, as he likes to call it, is trying to smash a hole in the dam. When a local reporter and her plucky sidekick ask him for an interview on what the fuck he's trying to do. They also ask basically if he's stupid because of who protects the sea. The wannabe Nazi says he doesn't care and he wants revenge on the American scum. Until you-know-who steps in and cleans him with a left hook right to the face. The Atom doesn't fear him, he says, and punches Superman. He almost felt it. And then he proceeds to absolutely annihilate him with a flurry of blows. He's beaten and he promises to return and tries to fly away. This version of Superman can't fly yet. It's still early doors, so he just throws a rock at him and takes him down. He opens up his suit to disable his power and he starts to get woozy. His hand starts to turn green. That's weird, he thinks. A man shows up to take it away and he begins to return to normal. Him and Lois get a bit flirty before he jumps on the power lines and zips away. Meanwhile, a new family is coming to Metropolis from Chinatown. Roberta, Tommy and their parents at a big city's newest residence. They're moving there for their dad's job. Checking back in with the Man of Steel. Clark returns to his office, but he can't get that stench of the green crystal off of him. He goes to look in the mirror and he sees what seems to be a big green alien bug thing staring back at him. But he hears sirens in the distance, so there's no time to worry about himself. Back at Roberta's family's new house, they're just getting settled when their dad's colleagues come to welcome them. One of them is named Jennings and he offers Roberta's mother an apple pie, also making sure to mention that it's apple and not dog. I know, what the fuck. The lads are chatting when it's revealed that their dad is the chief bacteriologist of Metropolis Health Department, and someone seems jealous, by the way. The two kids are upstairs checking out their new room when they see a flash of blue and red zip across their window on the telephone wires. And not to mention they live across the street from his best pal Jimmy. Roberta and Tommy go to their local baseball pitch and she tries to make a friend, and that's when the girl asks if she's Chinese or Japanese. She replies with the first answer, and the little girl seems to be very relieved, saying thank goodness. Then she asks how to say hello to her brother in Chinese. But they both speak English, Roberta replies after telling the answer. Tommy is really good at baseball and gets invited to play for the team when a jealous little boy challenges him to a match, calling him a yellow banana. What the fuck? Roberta overhears this, looking at his boots thinking it's weird that he's playing baseball in big red boots. Tommy hits him with the ball and then offers to help him up, but he refuses and calls him a China boy. Jimmy fired him from the team and he snaps, calling Tommy a ching chong. They're about to fight, but Roberta steps in and he backs off. The bully is named Chuck and he goes home and tells his uncle about what happened. His uncle puts him in the car and takes him to his first quote-unquote meeting. He puts on a bluish purple robe and tells him to refer to him as the Grand Scorpion. He tells him not to put on his robe yet until the ceremony is over, as they join the others. One race, one colour, one religion, they chant. The mission of the clan is to burn away America's impurities, he says. Back at Superman's apartment, the smell of the green crystal still lingers. He also hears a noise in the kitchen. Someone has broke in, he thinks to himself. He walks in and he thinks it's his ma and pa, until they turn to reveal themselves as the green bug he's seen earlier. He thinks he's dreaming. He hears their voice and it brings back a memory of his childhood. His pa had a strange radio that he found when he found him when he was a baby. And the voice is the same as the intruders in his kitchen right now. They invite him to eat and he does. He sits down and he can understand them now somehow. He asks what's happening to him. Isn't it obvious? Slowly, imperfectly, but inevitably, you're remembering, they say. Back at Roberta's, she's missing home and she's just about to go to sleep. She sees a bright light out of her window. She goes to look and is frightened by the sight. It's them. It's the people in the hoods. And they're burning a cross right outside of their window. They have their attention and they start their big grand speech spewing racist nonsense again and again and again. One race, one colour, one religion. Tommy runs out at them with a baseball bat and that's when they light a Molotov cocktail and throw it at the house, but it bounces off back at them. Roberta notices the big red boots. It's him, it's the bully from earlier. The bottle explodes and they scatter. 3 black men arrive at the house to help them put out the fire. They've seen it before, but not in Metropolis. It's the next day and Lois and Clark arrive at the scene. They need to investigate. Clark introduces himself to Roberta and he gives her his jacket. She thinks he looks a bit familiar but brushes it off and says that she always knew she didn't belong. Lois comes over and tells her that if her family stay, they will expose who they are. She's the best there is at digging up secrets. Encouraged by the 2 reporters, she says to her parents that she wants to stay. Clark can't stop thinking about what Roberta said about not belonging and thinks back to childhood. He was hanging out with his friend when he started to hear the voices again, and that's when his eyes start to get hot. A bunch of local bullies show up and steal their comics, and that's when Clark's eyes begin to glow and he starts hovering. He snaps and fires lasers from his eyes at them. His friend becomes afraid of him and runs. He always knew he didn't belong, but that day he got proof. Roberta and Tommy are walking home when they start arguing and she accuses him of being fake. He's not being himself and he called them both wontons just trying to fit in. So she walks off, leaving him to walk home alone. Elsewhere, in Metropolis, the green crystal is being studied. And they come to the conclusion that it's not of this earth. The Nazis lost the war, but they beat everyone else to the world's greatest secret, they thought. The atom is unconscious behind glass, floating in weird liquid. Tommy is walking alone when a car pulls up beside him, offering to give him a ride. He says no thanks, and that's when the Grand Scorpion and one of his goons hops out, calling him a ching chong. Roberta is starting to get worried and Tommy's not home yet. She goes out and she finds his hat on the ground. She goes to the nearby police to tell him everything, but he's just a bigot and definitely won't help. She runs to the Daily Planet to find Jimmy to tell him everything and Clark overhears it all. They head to the bully's house and Clark follows, of course, but a quick stop to the nearest phone booth, a little twist of red and blue and he's away. On a small country road, the clan have Tommy tied up in a car, telling him how they're gonna pour hot tar all over him. Also telling him how they have no hate in their heart. Yeah, right. Tommy secretly unties himself and punches him square in the face and jumps out of the moving car. They stop and chase after him to a nearby river and he jumps in trying to escape them. But he hurt his arm when he hit that punch, and he can't swim. Back at the bully's house, Roberta starts accusing him of taking her brother. He starts to get angry and grabs a bat, swinging it wildly, until crack, he makes a connection with it. Too bad it was against Superman's chest. The bully states how he's his biggest fan, and Superman says if that were true, you would help these people out. He gives in and says he knows where the location of the clan is. Superman takes both of them under his arm and heads off. Meanwhile, in the river, Tommy is struggling real bad. How the hell is he gonna get out of this situation? Tommy is struggling to stay alive, while the others are zooming along to rescue him, until the river gets in the way, and Superman jumps over it in a single bound. He listens for Tommy. Nothing. Then he sees them again, the green people. They tell him to look. They tell him to really look through, and he does. Everything becomes like glass, and he can see through everything. Then he spots Tommy at the bottom of the river. He jumps in, grabs him, and brings him to the surface. He's okay. He looks through his arm to see his bone, and it's broken. He gives him his cape for his sling. Then he zooms away to the hospital and he can smell it again, the crystal. It's them. They're standing outside again, this time in different clothing. They tell him that they're proud, and he asks, what are they? We're your parents, they reply. They sent him there believing the Earth's yellow sun could give him extraordinary abilities. And it has. He's in disbelief. They also ask why he isn't using his full powers yet. And that's when the memories of childhood comes back. People believing he was a demon for what he did. He was confused and didn't know how to explain what he had accomplished. One night he left bed to get that radio. Curiosity got the better of him. He's walking past the window and he overhears his parents talking about him. He needs to know the truth, they say. Say it. That he's an alien, his dad says. His mother snaps back. I'd never use that word for our Clark. We'll raise him to be perfectly normal, they say. The radio begins to play and he zips away before anyone can be seen. Running to the pier, throwing it in the water. He wants to be ordinary. Back in the present, why only half the powers, they say? The Lees show up at the hospital and thank Superman for what he did for their children. He gives Roberta his cape and runs away. The next morning, Clark and his boss are discussing the morning headline. $1,000 bounty for information on the clan. Chuck shows his uncle the headline and they panic. Coincidentally, an officer pulls up outside the home at the same time. Chuck tells his uncle to run out the back. His uncle tells him to stay away from the Unity House, aka the place where the kids hang out, because they're at war. Back at the Unity House, Tommy is showing everyone his cast, and they want to sign it, and Roberta is showing off her new jacket her mom made from Superman's cape. And that's when Chuck bursts in, telling everyone they need to get out of the building. Then he hears a ticking noise, but it's just a clock nearby. He's trying to come up with an excuse on why they should all leave, and they eventually agree on going to watch a movie. They head off, and watching from afar in a black car is two figures dressed in white cloaks. Meanwhile, Lois sneaks into the hospital and finds the Atom behind glass floating in strange liquid. But before she can get her hands dirty, she's caught and she's thrown out. Lois and Clark then meet up to talk about it, but Clark is distracted by the green people standing outside. Lois just thinks he's looking at other women and charges off. He bolts out the door and up to a rooftop to finally confront them, and they ask again, why only half of your powers? Why only half of who you actually are? But then he remembers back to a time when some bullies confronted him about being special. And a little girl new to his town stepped in. He could feel it happening again. He started to levitate and his eyes started to get hot. But he controlled it and made it stop. They introduced themselves to each other and he's back to being perfectly ordinary again. Back in the present, he tells them that he has a life here now and doesn't want to hear anything about his so-called alien parents. They ask again, don't you want the truth? And he says he wants his life. Goodbye. In the movies, Roberta notices Tommy isn't there and goes to find him. He's outside with Chuck playing catch. She confronts Chuck about being at their house that night, throwing that Molotov cocktail, and he admits it. But Tommy forgives him, believing he missed on purpose. Then he reveals something terrible is going to happen to the Unity House, and they head back as quick as they can. They find two hooded figures climbing in the window. Tommy and Chuck call the police, and Roberta and Jimmy go to confront the men. Back at the Daily Planet, Lois tries to tell Clark the story again, but he is again distracted by a phone call about the Unity House. At the Unity House, Roberta and Jimmy try fighting the men, and that's when they try to attack. But before they can move an inch, Superman is there to save the day, as always. Bigots in bed sheets, he calls them. He tosses one into a tree and drags the other into the building to find the bomb. He finds the others that were inside tied up, and he begs the green people to let him see the bomb with his power, but it's too late. The bomb is about to explode, so he grabs everyone and makes a run for it, leaping through the sky. Meanwhile, back at the planet, the rest of the clan have made their way into the building, threatening everyone inside. They want the cop's badge, because they can't stand him in their own town, they say. Meanwhile, at the Unity House, Superman is distraught. He's failed, he thinks. But one of the clan's members has gotten burned, so he brings him to the hospital anyway, and leaving the other in the tree. And while this is going on, Roberta and Jimmy have come to the conclusion that this is a distraction, and there is another target for the other members of the clan. They arrive at the planet and all they see is a big fiery cross right on the planet's centerpiece. What will they do now? In Smallville in 1936, the circus came to town, and Clark, along with his new girlfriend and his parents, went to go see it. They go to give their tickets, and the man is a bit rude and grumpy. But inside, it was like another world. They've never seen anything like it before. And then they got introduced to the strongest man on Earth, the mighty Samson. It was him. It was the ticket booth man. He was wearing a wig and underwear above his pants, but it was him. But meanwhile, outside a lightning storm threatens their evening when it strikes the tent and sets it ablaze. Chaos ensues. The strong man is helping a kid when the lion charges at him. He's about to bite the dust until Clark steps in, holding it back with his bare hands. They both relax after everything blows over, and the man suggests he wears a costume too. And when he gets home, his ma sews him one. She gives it to him and it has a big S on the front of it. His parents say it's a symbol from the old radio they had, an alien symbol. And so then, he became the world's strongest man. Back in the present, he's charging towards the Daily Planet, discovering the giant cross of fire. He runs up the building and puts it out by running around in a circle, creating a mini tornado of wind. But still, the scars remain. Then he finds out that the men took Lois and the others hostage. He also sees what seems to be a message left by Lois with her lipstick. WJ it says. Roberta suggests it's that creepy co-worker of her dad's, William Jenkins. She thinks it's his initials, so away he goes to investigate. Elsewhere in Metropolis, the gang have the others tied up in what seems to be their lair. The Grand Scorpion pulls out a sword, telling them it's storied. Until Lois notices the 279 tag still on it, and they all laugh. He gets very angry and goes to cut them up. But Superman smashes through the wall, stopping him before he can do anything. He shatters his blade on his chest. He punches him and almost breaks his fist. It's no use against the Man of Steel. He then knocks them back into each other, and the sword breaks, allowing Lois to grab it and free the others. A fight ensues and they all attack Superman, but he dispatches them quickly. And after everything, he ties them up and puts them away in a pickup truck. The Grand Scorpion begins to taunt him, saying if you kill me, hundreds more will take my place. Asking how he got so strong. Was it mystic training or mega vitamin serum? Whatever the fuck that is. He also says he's living proof of a superior white race. Superman gets angry and lifts up the car and brings it straight to the police station. But what he doesn't know is that the police are corrupt. Superman leaves Roberta home and she tells him that she can feel him landing very softly, which means he and they also explain how they sent him from their dying planet in hopes to find another better life. And luckily he did, and they were so happy for him. In Roberta's basement, she finds the green crystal encased in lead in her dad's stuff. The Grand Imperial Mogul tells the Scorpion that they've spent years researching a way to take down Superman, and they finally found it. The Nazis found the green stone from space and used its energy to make the Atom Man, sending him after Superman. When he was defeated, they observed the effects the crystal had on Superman. It weakened him. So they made special weapons to take him down. But the leader doesn't need the Grand Scorpion anymore and tries to take him out. But it doesn't work, and he strangles him to death. In Metropolis, there's a Little League match taking place. The Unity home versus Gotham's team, and everyone is there. When suddenly Roberta is taken by a mysterious person hidden in the shadows. It's him. One race, one colour, one religion, he says.
walking onto the field screaming racist nonsense. He points his gun at his nephew thinking he betrayed him, but Chuck hits him with a bat. Roberta kicks him and Tommy throws a mean left hook. He's defeated, they think, and that's when he pulls out the big guns. Literally. Until a flash of red zaps across the field. It's Superman, and he's flying. Everyone screams, monster, demon, except Lois. She's fearless, and that's why he ended up falling for her. He explains that he is an alien, not of this galaxy, but he's still a citizen of Metropolis, just like everyone else. The Grand Scorpion taunts him, saying nobody likes you here, and shoots him. Superman is weak, and he can smell the rot and ash of his dying planet. And that's when Roberta throws the crystal encased in lead towards Superman. Lead blocks its effects, and he jams it in the gun. It explodes, going everywhere. His strength floods back. He tells him to surrender. But that's when he reveals the dynamite strapped to his chest. Superman quickly grabs him and flies directly up. He freezes it with his freeze breath and destroys it. But he's not done yet. He pulls out a knife made of kryptonite and stabs him with it. They both fall. But Superman regains consciousness before doom and grabs him, landing safely. He hands him over to the police and whisks Lois Lane away into the sky. The next day, Roberta visits the planet's office, looking to return the pen because it costs too much, she says. But Lois says not a chance and offers her a position as a cub reporter. And she also did her homework and found her real name. It's not Roberta. It's Lan Shin. Lan Shin Lee. And Lan Shin is going to work hard to make Metropolis the city of tomorrow, her home, just like Superman. Well, that's it everyone. I really hope you enjoyed, because I did. This is a really good, heartfelt story. It reminds me of the Superman of old. Of course, it's set back then, but you know what I mean. If you liked the video, like and subscribe, comment down below what you think, and peace.